I'd like to call the regular meeting of Cobre Board of Education into session. It is 5 o'clock. Please let the minutes show that all board members are here. Of course, we're still missing one. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the zeal symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Action items. Item A, approval of agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Wadiana. Any questions on the agenda? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of October 18th. Motion by Mr. Wadiana. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Cordova. Any questions on the minutes? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of October 25th.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cordova. Second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Wadiana. Any questions on the minutes?
I have a question. On the first page, right above the part of update on auxiliary gym presented by Mr. Rob Price, there's a discussion held about the resignation that was being. Is it on now? Is it on now? Is it on? Can you hear it? It's showing battery full and time. Okay. Okay. Again, on first page above the update on the auxiliary gym section, it's preceded by a conversation related to resignation by Mr. Holguin. And there's a part of it that's left out, and the part was having to do where Mr. Sepulveda also instructed Mr. Holguin that he would have to resign in January if he had won the election. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I see the part where that is referenced, so I take that back. Have to submit another letter of resignation if he wins the election. No, I'm sorry, I overlooked that section. So, I withdraw the comment.
Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those. No, I'm dead. Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion to blow everybody's ears out here. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of November 8th, I'm sorry.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez, second. Second by Mr. Williano. Any questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes of a special board meeting of November 15th.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Joyce?
Mr. President, Mr. President, next item on the agenda is a presentation by Mr. Mayor Bouch. He'd like to give us an update on where we are with the Santa Clara Sports Complex. Mr. Bouch, if you would please come to the podium.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak with you this evening, and thank you, the board, for putting me on the agendas. The last time we spoke, we had talked about the possibility of maybe partnering together with the school district and the village of Santa Clara to try to develop a sports complex for over there by that area alongside of Central Elementary. And from what the last time the board looked interested, and we put together a little bit of information and give you kind of an idea of what we'd like to do over there. Add bathrooms and develop the ball field and the basketball court. Primarily what we'd like to also do would be put in what they call a pump track for bicycles. And it's sort of a track that has hills like a roller coaster for bicycles. You have some information there, and we've had the architect give a sort of an outline of what the sport complex would look like. And there's quite a large area there, and we have the one road that leads out there is Megan Street. We're hoping to maybe utilize that as kind of the main entrance and fence it all off. And you know, to put some shade structures and some picnic tables and make it more of a public area and really a nice place for the young people and people to go and enjoy the park and be able to do like a little activities and sports complex out there. You have some information there. What we would like to do, if it would be the board indicated the last time that they were interested in possibly doing something, we would like to have just a little letter of agreement that we're willing to go forward together and work together on this project. And so that way there we can pursue some funding. What we'd like to also do is work with the board and develop an MOU that would give us some boundaries and you know, how we're gonna go forward and who's gonna be responsible for whatever. And what we would like to do is, after the park's developed, the village would be willing to maintain the property and take care of it and do like that. think it's an ideal location because, you know, on the other part of town, we have Viola Park, we have the Splash Park and a few things over there. Up by the senior center, we have Central Park and that exercise park and the trail, a walking trail, but we don't really have any public park on that side of Santa Clara. And because it's real close to the school, and then, you know, the school has that road through there and, you know, that's fenced off, we can divide it off and we'd have something really nice for the people on that side of town. And I think it would be a really great project. It's a pretty good sized piece of property, and you know, I think we can do quite a bit of improvements out there and make it really a nice, attractive place for the people and the young people to go and spend some time outside. So if what we're asking is if the council would think that would be something that they would like to go forward with, approve the letter, and that way there we would take that to Santa Fe and start looking into getting some funding and see if we can put something together.
So you do have a copy in your packet of the scope of work and a diagram of what Mr. Bouch just presented. So are there any questions from any of the board members or Mr. Peru as Director of Facilities and about the project?
On the information, excuse me, but on the information, there's an example of a pump track. There really isn't, to my knowledge, one of those in the area. Maybe not even this part of I haven't known of one around this part of the state, but just sort of an example, you know, wouldn't be exactly like that, but it sort of give you an example of what the pump track is all about. And it's sort of an asphalt, it's a trail that goes in a circle, has various hills and different things to where the children could ride bicycles, and they go up and down the hills and through the intersections and things, and kind of a fun thing. And so that's kind of what we have there.
I only have a couple. One is I love the idea. I think the more we do for the kids, especially to be outside, is not only healthy for the kids and the families, but it makes it better for the school as well. So I think it's a good joint effort, and I appreciate you piloting this, and I hope we go forward. But would we need a letter already prepared that we would approve, or can we just approve it in
I was
concept?
just waiting to see if there's any questions, and then I was going to go ahead and read the letter.
Okay. Without further ado, then I'd like to hear the letter and hopefully move on.
So the letter would be addressed to Mayor Bouch, and it's addressed, Honorable Mayor, we the members of the Cobre Board of Cobre Consolidated School District are in agreement to move forward with the Village of Santa Clara to enter into an agreement and funding to create a sports complex using Central Elementary property located west of Hutchinson Street in the Village of Santa Clara. The complex will consist of installing a bicycle pump track, restrooms, shade structure, and upgrading the existing basketball courts and baseball diamond for public use, and will be maintained by the Village of Santa Clara.
There's an opportunity to perhaps join in the venture and build like outside classrooms that we might want to include in terms, just have some collaboration with the projects and not be kind of put and other projects as both parties may agree to. Because the outside classrooms may become more needed as time goes on with what we have.
And we do have an outdoor classroom that Mr. Peru is already working on getting quotes for at Central Elementary, but it wasn't actually going to be in this area. It was going to be in a different part of the school.
Then that takes care of that. The other part is Title IX requirements now for restrooms. Include that for transgender and people that identify differently. Just that's redundant. But anyway, can make sure that the restrooms comply with that. And basically what that means is there has to be viable restrooms available by choice for individuals. And
yeah, I would imagine, you know, whatever is appropriate, you know, the architects will review all of that and have public restrooms, and however that would go, I'm not opposed to any of that, so it, can have whatever is appropriate.
Okay.
My understanding is that this letter is only so that we can proceed to try to get the funding for it, right?
Well, just so we can show, because the legislative session is starting in a few weeks, we don't really have time to come up with a final MOU or some kind of a document right now. We want to try to apply for a capital outlay for some of the funding on the project, and we'd like to have something to show that we have an agreement, a tentative agreement between the Cobre School Board and the Village of Santa Clara. That way we can go up there, we request funding, the legislators know that we're actually in agreement that we want to move forward. And so that we can pursue the funding. Otherwise, we'll have to wait a whole year or apply. We intend to apply for some other grants and other things to do the funding, but the initial startup we're hoping to get some money from the legislators to get the project started. So this is just basically to show the legislators that we're in agreement and we want to work together and we're moving forward on the project.
The question that I have is, in the past that other people have tried to get funding, they don't own the property. And the question is, the school owns the property. So would the funding be directed to the school who's asking for it, or would the funding be directed at the town? And what are you going to do to show that you don't have proof of having the property?
Excuse me, but I believe with an MOU in place, we have an agreement. The last time we spoke, we thought possibly a lease or something would be in order, but because of the rules governing the school board, have a lease is not possible. So an MOU would be fine, and the village would like to be the fiscal agent for the entire project, and I think that would be very possible to do, and we can work that way and develop it and get the thing going, and because we're going to be doing long-term maintenance and whatever like on the project.
Any other question?
So, Mr. President, I would recommend that we sign the agreement so that Mr. Bouch can move forward and try to find funding for the project supported by the Cobre District.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana. Second? Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. One. Opposed.
So, Mr. President, I'm going to go ahead and sign the letter around for signatures, or do we just need your signature?
I think you just need my signature.
Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. I think it's going to be a great asset for the entire village and all the people. And the park is also open to the public. If anyone from Bayard or any outlying area will also be able to utilize it. So it's a great resource, I think, for the community. And so thank you very much for interest. And we'll get with the proper people and with the board and start working on an MOU so we can outline the project and things like that. But thank you all very much for seeing the village.
The only other thing that I say is that keep us posted as time goes on, if we do get money and things like that for you.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I think it's going to be the start of a really great partnership between us and the Cobre School District. And as things develop and start coming along, we'll work with the staff, and as we develop the project and it solidifies into a better looking project, we'll come back periodically and keep you up to date on everything that's going on. So that way you have input, that you can make suggestions and work forward with what we're doing. So, but thank you again very much. I appreciate
Thank you,
the
Mayor
support.
Thank you for bringing it forward. And also, if there's any opportunity that you see where we can be of assistance in lobbying for the money, certainly something the board should take a look at and agree to go forward with or not.
Yes, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Sir, thank you very much.
Mr. President, next item on the agenda is a donation from P&M. So at the beginning of the year, P&M had donated $2,000 for school supplies for any students in need. Since then, they are donating an additional $3,000 for a total of $5,000. What I did with the original amount is I sent an email to all the principals, the social workers, counselors, and attendance success coach, and let them know that this money was available. We have had some of the schools that have submitted to use some of the funds for students for school supplies. So I do recommend that we accept this $3,000 donation from P&M.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion? I'll move. Motion by Mr. Guadiana. Second. Second by Mr. Cordova. Any comments? Let's make sure we send them a thank you note.
We've already done that.
Okay, thank you. Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Next item on the agenda is use of facilities from the Cobre softball team. They want to use the Cobre High School cafeteria on January 7th for an enchilada dinner. And all necessary signatures have already been obtained, including food services. So I recommend approval of the facilities.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Gomez. Second. Second by Mr. Cordova. Any questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item I on the agenda is a report from Mr. Peru on the auxiliary gym and with action to be taken at the conclusion of his report.
One of the things is we're coming forward to recommend that we move forward on this. I was going to give a total cost of where we were and where we are now. And I think it's kind of leveled off. The only thing that has come down material-wise is wood. Wood has come down probably about 5%, but the metal cost, which we will be using mostly for construction, has stabilized, but it's still up there at 25% and above. So one of the things is like the total cost on the project before would have been, total construction would have been $973,825 is what we were looking at in the past before all this stuff happened. And right now our allowable construction costs, we're looking at $1,003,989. One of the things is the tax on the construction cost is $79,000, so that you guys have this information. The tax on the construction cost is $79,064.13. The architect fees are 8% of that, which is $86,644.25. The tax fee is $7,000, $202.30. We've already gone out and done the survey, the geothermal testing, the civil engineering, and the reimbursables, and that's $23,132. And so that brings our total cost of the project now to $1.2 million. So that's where we are now. It's stabilized. I mean, that's where we were at a few months ago. So we are, in visiting with the architects, we can move on it forward. So, I mean, if we can move on it now so we can get going with it. We can bring somebody on from CES and we can get moving on the project. I think the best thing is to go through CES and go through a couple of contractors that we have done things with in the past with CES. So that way we can hopefully get a better cost, But I'm thinking even though we go with CES, bring in a couple of contractors, not just one, so that we can look at a few, 2 or 3 of them, so we can hopefully keep the cost down, on their bidding. Okay? But I wanted to give you the cost and what it is and what has stabilized and what has not. So, I mean, if there's any questions on that part, we can answer that.
So, Mr. Peru, just to clarify, you're suggesting that we go through CES but get bids from 2 to 3 different contractors
Yes.
within CES
Yes,
to be able to move
within
forward.
CES.
Thank you.
Okay?
Any other questions?
So that would mean that we would go with an RFP to solicit those bids, correct?
Yes, but through CES.
Through CES, that's fine. The other part is, you said a 1.39 million is the current estimate, then you just said 1.2 million.
Well, the 1.3 million, I mean, the 1,003,000 and $989 is the cost of the construction. Everything else is that what it's gonna take from the other people that are involved, you know, whether it's your architects, your engineers, or whatever we have to do to get that taken care of. That cost is incurred above the $1 million.
Okay, and so the architect, the taxes, and.
Taxes, the fees, the architect's fees,
Okay, I
and
heard
all
it
that,
should be
that comes into that.
Okay.
Okay.
Can we get a printout of what you just presented?
Yes, I have it right here, and I'll email it to you.
Okay,
Okay?
okay.
Okay. That's all we have on the auxiliary gym. Yes.
I have a couple of questions, not on your presentation, Mr. Peru, but when Mr. Price came over and he presented to us, we had some questions on, if I recall, there was some question on some windows. There was some question on type of heating, if we could go with solar heat and stuff. To my knowledge, none of that got answered. The other question that I have, the main question that I have, is this facility was originally planned as a wrestling, volleyball facility. Since then, it has been made smaller,
Condensed, yes.
and now we're talking about a kind of auxiliary gym.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Well, what question, maybe I got a question for whoever answers it, what happens to the wrestling program? They were kicked out of the gym. They went over to where the weight training was, and that wasn't feasible in the winter, especially the heat. And now, what if this facility is going to be a multi-purpose building? And then the other thing that we haven't really, as a board, met to see the location. You know, we're talking about over there between the fields. What about facilities for electricity for over there, water for over there? All that, is that above and beyond what you're talking about as far as costs there? Or
No, sir, that's already incurred, and they've already gone out. We did the geotechnical out there. We had a civil engineering, Weber Engineering went out already and looked at everything also, because they went out to look at where we have our electrical, where we have our sewer lines, where we have all that, because we will have to tie into like where the old concession is. We have everything that runs into that one corner, which is actually on the east side of that building, and that's where we would have to tie everything into.
Okay. That was,
Yeah,
that was my
and
question.
on the wrestling, they would be able to utilize that also. They would just have to schedule, and what would help is, because then that way they can schedule, because we'll have another gym. You know, the only thing that's really hard is, and the athletic director and the coaches will have to schedule their schedule so they can do it among themselves. But the gym will be also set up so that they can use it if they need to for the wrestling also, because you can put out more mats than you can in where they are right now in the wrestling room.
And that it'll have storage places where they can store their mats, or they have to be
No,
back
the
and
mats
forth?
will be up against the walls. We will, at the cost that we're at right now, it will not have any storages. It'll have bathrooms, but it won't have storages to maintain, like to take care of the mats. I mean, but we'll have small storages like where they can put like basketballs and things like that. But there's nothing big enough that on storage-wise that they'll be able to put to store the mats.
Thank you.
Along those lines, we did talk about a bump out for storage, particularly of the mats.
I didn't hear your question.
Along those lines, we did talk about a bump out to store the mats, and otherwise they're really exposed to a lot of things, and that's a pretty expensive replacement cost involved. And
The mats would never be stored outside. They'll always be stored inside. And, you know, there'll be enough room around the outside because there won't be any bleachers and anything like that, you know, because we won't be able to utilize anything like that. So they will be able to put the mats on the inside of that gym up against the wall if they decide to use that. But we won't be able to do that'll just be another incurred cost that we probably won't be able to afford right now.
could you at least
With the,
keep
with
that
the
on-
money that we have for that project.
Could you at least keep in the back of the minds, as you go along, to see if there's an opportunity to do a small bump out of some sort that would be on a
Yes.
non-load bearing wall that wouldn't be that much,
Yeah.
wouldn't be that expensive? Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Well, either way, it's a metal structure, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We need to make a motion that we go ahead and have Mr. Peru contact CES so that we can get at least 3 bids to get started on the project. So we need a motion, we need a motion to, go ahead, Mr. President. So I recommend that we go forward with Mr. Peru's motion.
You heard the recommendation, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, but I don't understand what you clarified.
So what Mr. Peru is requesting is that we allow him to go forward with CES so that he can get 2 to 3 different bids so that we can get started moving forward with the project. So I'm recommending that we go ahead and do that.
So we can get the process started and get going with that.
I make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Guadiana, second? Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Ms. Varela,
Yes.
this is Terry. I'm online. We have to make sure we clarify that the procurement through CES needs to go through Ms. Riley to make sure that the quotes, along with Mr. Peru, obviously, and the architect. So it's gotta, since it's a major project, it's gotta go with recommendations from the architect to the project manager, Mr. Peru, but ultimately it's Ms. Riley that finalizes the procurement and presents it with contractual information to the board.
Correct. And she's here with us also, Ms. Odin.
I just wanted to make sure that's clarified.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor, I guess we already did, huh? Call for the vote. We had 1 opposed. Motion carries.
Okay. I want to say thank you. That'll give us the time to now proceed on what we need to do. Thank you very much.
Item J is finance, and Ms. Holguin is joining us virtually. Item
Good evening,
A
ma'am.
is SEL grants.
So is item A the review of bills, Joyce?
Can't hear you.
Is item A the review of bills?
No, what we had done, Terry, remember when we revised the agenda? We have item J under action items, SEL grant and Title II carryover, and then under finance, we put November, December payments.
Oh, that's correct. I'm sorry, Ms. Varela. Okay, so the SEL grant, that's for the CRISA, which is under the CARES Act for social emotional. The amount that was awarded to the district was $30,000, of which on your attachments, $15,000 is for Hurley Elementary and $15,000 is for Central Elementary. This has been reviewed by the Finance Committee, and so it's $25,000 for professional development, $5,000 for supplies and materials, and that's your $30,000.
And just to clarify, the professional development, when we wrote the grant, it's to continue work through Kickboard. As you all know, Kickboard, we do have a Kickboard coach that has been working with us as a district, providing professional development on Fridays, and also working individually with each of the campuses. So this will help pay for some of the costs of that. So I recommend that we approve or accept the SEL grant as presented by Ms. Holguin.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion? Motion by Mr. Gomez, second? Second by Mr. Cordova. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The kid court program already exists,
Yes.
and it's short funding?
No, we actually had it, so, because we had written these grants since last year, before this school year started. So what we had done was we had put partial funding under the SEL grant and partial funding under CARES. So because we had not received this, we were gonna take it all out of CARES. So now this will allow us to use 25,000 off of this grant as opposed to using it all out of the CARES.
So the part that was used under CARES, is that gonna come under another bar for movement for where it goes?
We will have to do that. We have to look at that.
Okay,
And we've been in the process of reviewing the CARES grants so that we can look to see where we need to revise and add some additional funding or move funding to different line items. So
Okay.
we've been looking at that. We're just not finalized with it yet.
okay. It's kind of like in future efforts that it'd be good to see kind of the beginning and the ending of it at the same time.
Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B.
Mr. President, members of the board, the second item is a bar for Title II carryover. This funding, it was reviewed by the PED, and we had carryover of $89,142. This was reviewed also by the Finance Committee. As you can see, there is one salary line item that is for class size reduction. We are allowed by Title II, and it has been written into the application that if a classroom size is above the numbers that we can allot funding for that to fund salaries. The other is additional compensation for teachers, and Ms. Varela can elaborate on that, and then also on the professional development.
Okay, so on the additional compensation, all teachers in grades K1, 2, 3, and some 4th and 5th, all coaches, all interventionists, all administrators, and special education teachers are taking part in the letters training. And letters training does have 2 days per semester where they have to attend a class, mostly during school time. And then they also have some units that have to be completed outside on their own time. So that additional compensation would be for each of those teachers that are completing that training. What they would have to do is at the end of the school year, they would have to submit their certificates of completion to me. There's 2 units that they're completing this year, so it would be 200 for one unit and 200 for the next unit, which is similar to what we did last year. That's what the additional compensation is right there. On the professional development, we do have our keynote speaker. Some of you were able to meet her back in July, Gail Gorky. She has been working with the high school. The high school has really embraced a lot of the training that she's doing with them, some of the support that she's giving them. But she'd also, in working with Ms. Montoya, they'd also like to bring her back to do some classroom observations and some job-embedded professional development and coaching side by side with teachers. So that's what the additional money here for professional development would allow us the opportunity to do. So I do recommend approval of the Title III carryover bar as presented by Terry.
You heard the recommendation. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On this next one, It says, board member resignation. Gabriel Olguin, as you know, has resigned from the board. And, he sent me a letter saying that he was resigning. And, as of right now, it blocks me from sending it to anybody else. The way he sent it, it's blocked. I put in 2 calls into Gabriel today and didn't get an answer. I know Victor is gonna try to work with me. In fact, that's what we were doing right before the board meeting, to try to see how we can move it over and at least send it to Joyce so that she can print us all a copy. And that's where we're at right now with that.
Blocked, so it's not like legally blocked or anything, it's a tech issue in terms of how to move it from your email to somebody else's, or?
No, from his email to, I can see it, but I can't forward it to nobody.
It's blocked from allowing him to forward it to me, because we tried already, and it won't allow us to
It
do
won't
that.
allow us to forward it
So
right now.
a screenshot wouldn't work? Okay.
So as soon as I get with Victor, we'll forward it to Joyce.
So are we going to go ahead and move forward with,
Yes, I think we need to, so we can appoint somebody. So do I hear a motion?
I
To-
recommend that we accept Mr. Hogin's resignation so that he can continue to volunteer as wrestling coach for Cobre High School.
You heard the recommendation, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cordova, second? Second by Mr. Gomez. Any other questions?
I have a question. What was that he would continue to do
Volunteer as wrestling coach for Cobre High School?
as wrestling head coach? Okay. I still have issues even though it's voluntary, and I'll pursue those outside of the district. But this is for the next 4 years, or is this, how can we be making a motion on a position that he hasn't stepped into yet?
Well, he resigned his previous board,
Yes.
and so he has volunteered for, what, right now, 3 weeks?
Yep.
And he has volunteered for those 3 weeks on his previous board. Now he's resigning for this next 4 years.
And he would continue as a volunteer for the next 4 years.
I guess that's where it goes.
If he chooses to remain in that for 4 years, he may choose at any point to step down from volunteering as head coach.
But right now, that's what he says in his letter, that he will continue to be the head coach. He will continue to volunteer as the head coach.
So I will state my 2 objections. One is that he's continuing to work this year while he's still a board member, and he'll continue in the next part. And the second objection is taking an action on a position that he isn't in yet, regardless of whether he submits the letter in advance.
Okay. Mr. Cordova?
To my understanding, he resigned from the board before the election.
Mm-hmm.
So he started coaching as a volunteer coach, and then he got reelected. So this letter that we're talking about now is for his resignation to the board based on the election that was for 4 years. But to my understanding, the wrestling coach, his contract is a 1-year contract. It goes from year to year. So he might not be there for 4 years. He might choose after that not to coach anymore, but he still won't be a board member, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, thank you.
There was a question.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Is it okay if I take off my mask or do I keep it on? Leave it on? Okay, I'll go ahead and leave it on. Oh, okay, no, that's fine. Again, Mr. President, Interim Superintendent Varela, members of the board, again, I'm pretty sure you guys all know my name, George Esqueda. I'm here to, I guess, ask a few questions in regards to the resignation letter. Again, I'm not here to get into the politics about wrestling coach or anything like that. I'm just wondering if the letter is blocked and unable to be passed on to the board, is that something then that you, Mr. Sepulveda, can read off of your phone? I think Victor has a question. Well, I guess that's my question. I mean, if it can't be shared at this point, I don't understand how you can take
Mr.
it one.
Mr. Arambola just said that he was able to download it. He can be shared now.
No, I understand that. I understand that it can be shared, but to take action on the resignation without seeing the actual letter itself at this point in time is my question. So if the letter is not available at this point in time,
Mr. Sepulveda has access to the letter. Mr. Sepulveda, you want to read the letter?
Yeah, I can. Can you get with Victor because it's been archived already?
and I guess my point is if we can at least get the date when the letter was, the date of the letter and the effective date of the letter, because the effective date comes into play in terms of what the district is required to do at that point in time.
Is there any way you can project it? You want to do that? He's okay with it. He just said he'd rather do that. Read it or no? You want to have it displayed?
Up
Sure.
to you.
Sure.
Well, I guess while Victor's doing that, would you guys like for me to continue, or do we wait for the letter?
Your question with the letter, so we'll wait.
Okay. So just for clarification, that's part A of my question. I do have a part B, which could probably be addressed even without reading the letter, so it's up to you. However you guys would like to proceed.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I guess to continue moving forward, I guess while we wait for Victor to get that, I was wondering if either you, Mr. Sepulveda, as board president, or any of the board members, can provide the public an explanation or a plan moving forward how, if Mr. Holguin does, which is apparent that by his submitting his resignation letter, how is his seat going to be filled moving forward?
So that part's going to come after the board accepts or rejects the resignation.
So I guess at this point in time, then we pretty much have to wait for the letter. Okay.
Mr. President, if they're struggling with that, could we have either one of them read the letter? Mr. Sepulveda, you need to upgrade.
Then I'll really be lost. I'm really getting used to this one. That's what my daughters keep saying. It took me a long time to get rid of my little flip phone.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just read the letter, if you'll scroll it up as we get there. Dear Ralph Sepulveda, although I was elected to the Cobre Board of Education in November of 2021, I will not serve on the Cobre Board of Education from 2022 to 2026. I will not take the oath of office in January 2022, which makes my appointment official. I am currently volunteering as a head coach for Cobre Wrestling. I will continue to serve the students of Cobre schools, only in a different capacity. Sincerely, Gabriel Hogan. And you'll notice the letter was dated December 7th, 2021. Thank you.
And I think the reason that we can't have trouble downloading is because it had an electronic signature on it.
So that'll be made available to the rest of us?
So
So,
I'm sorry, I'm just waiting for Mrs.
so Mr. President, you had a motion from Mr. Cordova, a second from Mr. Gomez.
Yep. Any other questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Aye. One opposed. Motion carries.
So, Mr. Sepulveda, do you want to talk about what would happen next, please? Explain what would happen next as far as the appointment of Mr. Hogan's vacant position?
Yes. Well, what's going to happen now is we'll post announcement of a vacancy, and
Point of order, that's not on the agenda. What's on the agenda is the resignation. Nothing's on the agenda saying what steps we're going to take forward to go on.
Right, and the question was posed by Mr. Esqueda. So we're
But
answering his question.
He's stating action items that are going to be taken. So it,
It's informational that he's giving us, information on what happens next.
Yeah, that's
Not
all.
taking action on anything at
I'm
this
not having nobody vote. I'm just saying what the process is for filling a position when it's vacant.
Yeah, again, I'm only up here for informational purposes for clarification, again, on how things, how the board or the school district is gonna move forward with filling the vacancy. I understand that there'll be action required in the future, but again, I'm just here for informational purposes only.
Which
at
is
this
what
point in
Mr.
time.
Sepulveda is
Yes.
going to provide.
Yes. What'll happen is that we'll post that there is a vacancy, and those people that are interested in being appointed to the board submit a written letter, and then at one of our board meetings in executive session, we can go back and look at the letters and decide on who we want or what process we want to take from there.
But with that, I guess my question then, and I appreciate the answer, because my question was gonna be if letters of interest to fill the vacancy was gonna be announced. So, I do appreciate that, and it does look like if anybody who's out there within the district is wanting to volunteer, that they just submit the letters of interest, and I'm assuming that'll be posted through the Silver City Daily Press in regards to an announcement? Because I'm almost positive there has to be.
Yeah, it will be announced in the press, and it will be on the Cobre website.
Okay, so I appreciate that. So with that appointment, though, I guess, and how you're saying that it comes to the board to appoint, I'm assuming then that no action on appointing the fifth member will occur until after the new board has been sworn in and is seated.
Yes, it'll be sometime in our meeting on the 13th or the 24th,
The 10th.
probably.
January 10th.
So with that, so when do Member Holguin and not Member Holguin, I'm sorry, Member Udiana and Member Murillo get sworn in then? Do they get sworn in
They will be sworn in here on the
January 10th.
10th.
so January 10th, and you're looking to appoint on January 10th as well?
Well, I don't know if it's then or not. I still don't know. It just depends on when that announcement goes out, and then we gotta give some time there, a week or two to get letters, and then at that time, once they will be appointed then, and we'll have an executive session then to go through. So they will be board members when we select somebody.
Okay, so now I guess there's my question, that board member, incoming board member Murillo would have an opportunity to review all the letters of interest, and that her voice would be heard in regards to selecting the fifth member.
Yes.
Okay, so that was my question. Again, I just didn't want to, because I had some contradictory information from last week that indicated that at that first meeting in which she was going to be sworn in, that an appointment was going to be made at that time as well. So that was the information that I was provided last week. So if that's changed, I'm glad that it's been reconsidered.
Well, it might be that day that we appoint, but she will be a board member, and her voice will be on it anyway.
But I guess my question then is, how will she have an opportunity to have reviewed the letters of interest
Well,
prior to that? So
Mr.
She'll have just as much opportunity as we do, because
Okay.
we won't see those letters until that day.
Right, because Mr. Sepulveda said it would be done in executive session.
okay, so, all right, and I guess, I just wanted to make sure, because again, Chapter 2, Section C, vacancies on the school board, it does say that a majority vote of the remaining members of the local board. So again, it'll be the incoming board, and I understand that if a majority vote is not obtained in regards to the selection of the fifth member within 45 days from the resignation, that the that the State Board of Education then appoints a qualified candidate.
That is correct, and normally they go and visit with former board members and probably appoint a former board member.
So then at that point in time, if out of the pool of those that submitted their letters of interest, if an appointment cannot be made from that pool, the State Board of Education won't entertain them as a potential candidate either?
I don't know
Okay.
exactly how they do it, but I do know that they do visit with former board members to
Okay.
get a former board member on.
Okay, well, no, I appreciate it. Again, I just wanted to make sure that the incoming board would be making the decision. And again, I appreciate the time entertaining my question and the response. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay.
Next on the agenda is the update on unfinished business, Superintendent search update by Ms. Jackie Riley.
Mr. President, members of the board, I'm here today to give you an update on the request for proposals issued that was done on October 21st for the Superintendent Search Consulting Services. The deadline to submit the proposal was November 30th of 2021, to which we only had one bidder respond to this. And this bidder did meet all the criteria. So in order to move forward with this process, we now need to evaluate the single proposal that we have received. So with the cancellation of the last board meeting, which was December 8th, the timeline was pushed back. So I have already informed the offerer of our time change. So our goal for review is January 10th of 2022, which is our next board meeting. So I'm suggesting the board meet in a closed session. At that time, we will evaluate and score the proposal to be able to make a determination on the proposal. And then at that time, we will determine if we want to award the offer. The vendor will be notified that week.
Okay.
How was this published, the RFP? Where was it published?
It was in the newspaper and on our website.
Not any associations, education associations, or?
No.
And for how many days?
Well, it's been up since it was issued, which was October the 21st. So they had since October the 21st, and they had all the way up to November 30th.
How many days was this posted?
3 days in the newspaper, and then it's still up on the website.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Riley.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Mr. President, that moves us down to finance, November, December payments. Ms. Terry Hogan will join us virtually.
Do we have any public input first?
I don't know.
Do we have any public input, Victor? Okay. Anybody else? I can't see out there, so holler at me. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Moves on to administration. We have none. Finance.
Okay,
ahead,
Ms.
Joyce.
Hogan. November, December payments, Terry.
So the reason we don't have it as an action item is that because of the short months for November and December, we did bring the bills forward to the Finance Committee, but it was decided there that since those payments had to be made so that we would avoid any late payments, that the information in your packet for the review of bills, those payments have gone out. So if there are any questions on those, we'll entertain questions, but there isn't a presentation to approve bills because they have already been paid.
Any questions? Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Superintendent report.
Under Superintendent report, we have 2 fundraisers. One we kind of already announced. That's the Cobre softball team. We'll have an enchilada dinner on January 7th. And then we have another fundraiser form from the Snell Mesa Club. They're going to be having a STEM night on January 20th for parents and students. And on that night, they're going to do a raffle for various items. Mr. Peru, update on softball, baseball fields.
Alrighty. First of all, I want to give the update on the baseball and the softball fields. Hellas is back here again. They're currently working on both the softball and the baseball field. We met with Hellas on 12/6 of 21, which was last Monday. Got a game plan going. We had to make a few adjustments to what they were going to do because of the places that we were going to put those. Let me see here. One of the things on the bullpens. One of the things is on the 8th of December, what we did is the maintenance crews went in at the softball field, especially. We had to tear down all the batting cages that are on the west side. We tore down all the batting cages because the coaches were hoping that we could get the bullpens up closer to the dugouts so they could keep an eye on the girls when they're warming up and doing those type of things. And then we made another adjustment is we didn't, the coach didn't want it actually put on the other visualize because we couldn't get in because of the parking. Where the thing was to be placed was actually right by where the concession stand is and where you drive in. So we weren't going to be able to get the buses through there, that we have to park on the backside. So we decided to put everything on the west side of the softball field. So we signed off on that. They're still putting in the same square footage for all the bullpens. but they're all going on the west side. That's why we took the batting cages down. On the baseball field, we got the bullpens. One of them is on the south end. On the visitor side, it's on the south end down by right field. And then on the home side, it's going right there on the west side, right in front of the batting cages. We were able to modify everything and get everything set there. They set the curbs on the 13th. All the dirt work and the drainage will be completed by the 17th, which is this Friday. And the turf crews won't be able to be here yet because of some scheduling conflicts. So they won't be here until Monday, the 24th of 22. At that time, they're hoping that we can get everything completed with the bullpens by the end of the month, which is the 31st. And then we will have everything. They will turn it over to us once we go through the final inspection and look at everything and make sure that everything is correct. Well, we've been going out, one of the maintenance persons and myself have been going out and making sure that the dirt work is done correctly. You know, when they brought in everything, we went over and inspected it and where we could put it and be able to do those type of things. So it's looking really good. Both the softball coach and the baseball coach are really happy the way it's coming together, and it's really going to benefit our athletes to be able to, you know, use those bullpens. One of the things after the bullpens are done at the softball field, we'll have to go to construction and contract someone to put the new batting cages up. We're looking at designs right now. The baseball coaches and myself, we're looking at what we can try and do. Because one of the things that we're going to try and do is what we were going to try and do before, where we can have the batting cages set up, but we can put the pitching machines in there. And so we don't get any damage, because the fields where the fields sit, they're very open to the public in some of the areas. As long as they cross the fence, they can get in there and damage them. So what we're going to do is try and set them up where we can have the batting cages remotely move, and we can move the batting cages back, so that way when we lock everything up, we can lock it up in some storages, and that's what we're looking to try and do at both of them, so we can get the batting and the pitching machines. Because we have right now currently 3 pitching machines that we purchased from Howie Morales. When he had the batting cages in silver, we purchased all the pitching machines and brought them over, and we currently have them there, and they're ready to be used once we complete this, and we can get that construction taken care of also. You know, so one of the things with passing Senate Bill 9, that's a really good plus, because now we can utilize to be able to do that type of thing also. Okay, any questions? Mr. Esqueda?
Members of the board, my name is Robert Esqueda, and I have 2 questions regarding the improvements to the baseball and softball field. Will these improvements cost anything to the school district? And secondly, how is it, if there is no additional cost to the schools, that Hellas is coming back to construct these improvements?
There was there will be no extra cost to the district. There was informality that we found. Our project manager that was there to oversee the softball and the baseball fields in the past signed off on completion of the projects when they were actually not completed. So we, Mr. Esqueda found a couple of things on there when he was going through the contracts. So Hellas, through CES, we went through CES and we made sure that CES was on board, because they were the ones that we had gone through. So they actually, in working with the stuff that Mr. Robert Esqueda found, we were able to have CES visit with Hellas, and then we visited with Hellas also. So we were able to reset everything back up, because they found where they came back and did everything for us that should have been completed back then.
Is it not true that when the contractor came in and did the improvements 2 years ago, that the contractor was paid in full for all the improvements, despite the bullpens not being constructed at the softball field and the baseball field? Is it not true that the contractor, when they came in and did the original construction 2 years ago, was paid in full for all the improvements? And it wasn't discovered until now that the contractor was paid for items that were not constructed.
It is true, and as like I previously said, the project manager that was on taking care of those projects signed off on it, and at that time, he did not, he shouldn't have approved it at that time, but he did approve it. So it is true that that's why they're coming back now and completing the projects for us. Anything else? Alrighty.
Mr. Peru. Mr. Peru, this is
Oh.
Terry. Just
He's
to
hearing voices.
just to add to that really quick is that apparently the oversight was between the original bid and the renderings according to the contractor, but when CES reviewed all the documents, they found that Hellas should have followed the narrative and not necessarily fall completely on the renderings. So that was an oversight on Hellas's part, which they did indicate when we met with them. So just to clarify, that piece of information was not, has not been asked, but it was provided.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Holguin.
You're welcome.
Okay, before I give the next update, I'm gonna be giving an update on some lighting that we're gonna be doing. I just wanna publicly thank the community for the efforts that they did and the support of the Senate Bill 9. I know I've thanked a lot of people out there in the community, but I just wanna thank them because one of the things is now we'll be able to start working on some of the projects that we had to put on hold. And the project I'm gonna be talking about is one of the ones that had gotten put on hold. I'm just glad that we passed the mill levy and we had the election in November when we did and be able to pass it. If not, we would have missed the opportunity to be able to take part in what P&M had provided for us. We had been working with P&M since back in April and May to try and get these things taken care of. We had thought we had gotten it off the ground. And one of the things is, our lighting in our gyms right now, especially like Cobre High School, Snell Middle School, and the little gym that we utilize a lot, the lighting is really, really bad. One of the things that we are right now, tomorrow we're going to have one of our first home games. And, I feel bad for the kids that have been playing. The girls have been playing in there right now, and the gym is actually very dim. I mean, it's not, not very well lit at all. So I know the girls struggle. I mean, I've talked to the girls and I've talked to the coaches, but we were able to get this thing off the ground. And we only have till December 22nd, or we only had until December 22nd to be able to get on board with this. We're going, the project will start on Friday. It'll probably take about a week and a half to complete. The total cost of this project is $47,830.53, and that'll have brand new LED lighting in the Cobre High School, Snell Middle School, and in the little gym. The thing that's really good is because P&M is going to pay $28,076.31 to the contractor, and Cobre's responsibility will be $19,754.22. And that's part of a grant that we've been working on with P&M. One of the things is it's called the Quick Saver Program. So it is utilized, and now since we're going to be able to utilize it, if we wouldn't have utilized it, Cobre would have been responsible for the whole amount of $47,830. So, we are actually saving money, and then it's going to save us money on the electricity bill, because once we put the LEDs in, they're going to be 100-watt LEDs. There's going to be less of them compared to what we have right now, which are 400-watt light bulbs in there. The bad thing is with these light bulbs that keep going out, the fixtures we've changed over the years, but it's the same setup that we've had since 1953. So it's going to be a really great improvement to all the gyms, even Snell's. Even though Snell's is much newer, I mean, it's going to be a great improvement. And hopefully, when the kids come back after the holidays for the next games, I mean, they'll get to experience it when they practice after the break, or during the break, actually. But one of the things I was really excited about being able to get this thing off the ground, because now the lighting will be much, much, much better. There's some monies out there that we're trying to go after so we can eventually convert all of our schools into LED, so it can save us on electrical bill, because our electrical bills just continue to climb. And so I'm glad that we were able to do this with P&M on this Quick Saver program, so that we can at least save some money and be able to do that. And like I said, I wanted to thank the community and that they passed the Senate Bill 9, because if not, we wouldn't have been able to do this. And by being able to do that, it's actually saved us money, and so we'll be able to do the things we need to. Also, I wanted to mention one thing, and it's just part of transparency. I want the community to know that, we do work on these projects, we work on all these things, but one of the things is that never gets into consideration, because I know that everybody's always asking for transparency on where we spend the money. Some of the money, it happens that we have to spend it like tomorrow. You know, I mean, and people don't think about it because they think of Senate Bill 9 that it's just, you know, we got to make sure that, you know, it's just used for this. You know, we're going to do a roof project at Snell, for example, or things of that nature. You know, but one of the things that happens is we have to use it for like windshields, you know. I don't know how many windshields we replaced last year, how many tires we've had to put on our tractors, our backhoes and stuff like that. And that all comes out of Senate Bill 9, you know, but people don't, sometimes in the community don't understand that, okay, well, what do you mean you used $10,000? That was used for what? And so, you know, that's where we wanted, you know, I just want to make sure that they understand that the money is being used for those type of things also, that we can keep things up and running and keep things going. You know, and it just made me think about it this morning because, you know, all of our Suburbans were out this past weekend. They were all with kids because, you know, we're short one bus. So our basketball teams were traveling in Suburbans. The coaches were driving them, you know, and 2 Suburbans came back with cracked windshields. So we had them in there this morning trying to get the chips and see if they could get the chip fixed instead of having to replace the whole windshield. But that's what made me think about it because, you know, so many people don't realize that, you know, how many tires we have to go through and replace and do those type of things, you know. So I just wanted the community to understand and know that.
So with that being said, 2 projects that our team is currently working on right now. We are working on a spreadsheet that we're going to put up on, well, 2 spreadsheets that we're going to put up on our district webpage. One will have all the bond expenditures, how much money we have in through the bond,
Correct.
all the different projects, along with the start dates and the completion dates of the bond projects and how much the total bond project cost. We're doing the same, and with some pictures to go along with that too, so that the community can see where their money's going. And the other thing that we're working on is a preliminary spreadsheet for SB 9, our budget spreadsheet, that's gonna show what projects we're looking at covering through SB 9. And then that would be an ongoing spreadsheet because we do have other expenditures, as Mr. Peru says, that maybe weren't budgeted specifically for windshield or specifically for tires. But we will be putting those up on the website because we do want the community to see where their money is going and pictures of the projects so that they can see what projects are being completed, both with the bond and SB 9.
And one of the things that it'll also be on is on the facility master plan, because one of the things is when we implement those type of things, we put it on the facilities master plan so that we can keep track of them, and then that way it helps us for future monies through capital outlay. Okay? Anything?
I had a question. In an observation of what you just stated, I really like the idea of going to transparency, especially if this is going to be continually updated and a live document. I think that's a tremendous step forward. But I do recognize that there's a gray area on the SB 9 monies in terms of, like what you mentioned, tires and windshields. One could argue that those should be budgeted in our regular operating funds. That's not a new project. That's not an addition of anything else. So that opens an area for, if that transparency is going forward, that opens an area for discussion. It doesn't mean that don't do it and everything else. It just opens an area for discussion for which I hope we follow up with and make that transparency to a level of accountability that shows we're not supplanting otherwise regular budgetary funds with the SB 9 money.
Okay.
Mr. Peru, on that one, and members of the board, maintenance and repair of buildings, grounds, and equipment is a specific line item allowed in SB 9.
Yes. I just wanted to make it where everybody understood that we do have that line item and that's where that works. Because a lot of times it's just people in the community, you know, have asked me questions about the projects and things of that nature, but they're not aware that we use the money in other areas also. Because a lot of times people confuse the mill levy with the bonds, and that's 2 totally different things. And those are before the election of the mill levy and before the board election, I was approached by many, many people when we were going out and presenting and talking about the mill levy. A lot of people thought that the mill levy actually constituted on the bonds, and it's not. So, you know, it was good to get them educated and educate them on the mill levy versus the bonds in the community. So I think a lot more community members understand the way it was presented, and I think that, you know, we'll just have to continue to be like that with them, and so they can get educated on what we have. Okay? Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peru. Also in your packet is information on some Freeport grants for Bayard Elementary and Hurley Elementary. Bayard Elementary received $1,000, and Hurley Elementary received $1,000 for grants that Bayard Elementary got $1,500, and Hurley Elementary $1,000. Bayard Elementary got $500 to help with perfect attendance incentives, for Terrific Kids Recognition Luncheon, and for classroom materials on hands-on learning for kindergarten. And I know that they did have a picture in their Facebook page, I believe it was yesterday, of all the materials that they purchased using this grant for their kindergarten classes. Hurley Elementary will receive $500 for compost and potting soil for their garden that they have at Hurley Elementary, and also for pre-K books that they're going to be purchasing. We did have you also have in your packet a copy of the professional development schedule. I realize that we have not been providing the board with a copy of our professional development schedules, which is why I included it in here. We have had some amazing professional development for the last couple of years, so I will start making sure that I give you a copy of that. Also, we did have a site visit last Tuesday from New Mexico PED. It was a virtual site visit, both on our Circle grant and our CLSD grant, and that visit went really well. Positivity rates, you have the old one in your packet. You'll notice that our positivity rates after we came back from Thanksgiving did decrease significantly, and I am giving you a copy now of positivity rates for this past week. They've gone up a little from the week before, but they're still significantly lower than where we were before Thanksgiving. So currently at Bayard Elementary, our positivity rate is 4 people in the building with 1.79. Central Elementary, 2 people in the building, 1.02. Hurley Elementary, 3 people, 1.96 positivity rate. San Lorenzo Elementary had 1 for a 0.99. Snell Middle School had 5 for 1.81. Cobre High School had 9 with a positivity rate of 2.58. Others in the district, which would include maintenance, food service, administration office, who am I missing? Technology. We had 1 person for a 2.04. So overall as a district last week, we had 25 cases for a district positivity rate of 1.85%. On the agenda next, we have elementary Veterans Day program. So our elementary students did put on a virtual Veterans Day program for our veterans that we would like to share with the board.
Hi, my name is Yesenia Gonzalez. I'm a 4th grader in Mrs. Vara's class at Bayard Elementary. Today we are going to be honoring our brave veterans who have fought for our country and for those who are serving today. We will have special presentation from Bayard Elementary, Hurley Elementary, Central Elementary, and San Lorenzo Elementary. We hope you enjoy. Again, thank you to all of our veterans.
Peace. On behalf of the entire Central Elementary School family, we would like to thank you for your service, sacrifice, and willingness to defend our great country. Happy Veterans Day, and we hope you enjoy our tribute.
Thank you, see the veterans, see the veterans, oh so brave, oh so brave. We thank you for your service, you're so strong, we remember, on this day, fighting for our freedom, we thank you, See the veterans, oh so brave, are so brave. We thank you for your service, we thank you for your service. You're so strong, you're so strong. We remember, on this day, we're fighting for our freedom, we're fighting for our freedom. We thank you, we thank you. Your grand old flag, your high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true for the red, white, and blue, but there's never a boast or a brag. But shall all acquaintance be forgot? Keep your eye on the grand old flag. This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to New York Islands, from the forests to the ocean waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me, that in the skyway, I saw below me, there was no valley. This land was made for you and me. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crowned thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. And crowned thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. Our American veterans. Each American veteran shall always be a part of freedom's history. Hold deep inside fervent pride for all who gave the brave who died. They showed their best for liberty, they stood for us with certainty. Their wound of war, their purple heart, each dared to care and do their part. Some bore a wound which took their life, while others lived past war's home knife. True patriots, they faced their call to keep our nation strong for all. Deep scars of war are carried by those who return and those who cry. Pray for the brave, their loved ones too. Thank God for heroes, all of you.
I am an American. That's the way most of us put it. Just a matter of factly, they are plain words, those four. You could write them on your thumbnail, or you could sweep them clear across this bright autumn sky. But remember too, that they are more than words. They are a way of life. So whenever you speak them firmly, speak them proudly, speak them gratefully. I am an American.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are in this class in third grade class, and I want to thank you for your service. Hi, my name is Aliana Carrillo, and this is Miss Rooney's first grade class. Hi! We will be reading a poem using I Station synonym for our wonderful venture. Our veterans are brave and strong. Our veterans show honor and respect. Our defend us and protect us. Our veterans from the bad guys, they protect them. Our veterans are kind and nice. Our veterans prevail, they overcome. We display our love, we show our love for veterans. Thank you.
Hello veterans, this is Hurley Elementary. We'd like to share a very special song for you all, for your service and for your sacrifice. We appreciate everything you've done for our country. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and hope you enjoy our tribute. Happy Veterans Day.
Esta tierra es tu tierra, esta tierra es mi tierra, desde California, la isla de Nueva York, desde los bosques de secuoyas hasta lo caliente del Golfo. Esta tierra se hizo say thank you. We will all say thank you on a special day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's all say thank you. We will all say thank you on a special day. You were also brave to keep our country safe. Our little poppy as red as green, to show that I remember those that not for me. I will wear a red poppy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's all say thank you. We will all say thank you on a special day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's all say thank you. We will all say thank you on a special day.
Just trying to be a father, raise a daughter and a son, be a lover to their mother, everything to everyone. I've been riding bright and early, my business in my suit. Yeah, I'm dressed up for success, from my head down to my boots. I don't do it for the money, there's bills that I can't pay. I don't do it for the glory, I just do it anyway. Provide for our futures, my responsibilities. Yeah, I'm real good under pressure, being all that I can be. I can't call in sick on Mondays when the weekend's been too strong. I just work straight through the holidays, sometimes all night long. You can bet I stand ready when the wolf growls at the door. Yeah, I'm solid, yeah, I'm steady, yeah, I'm true down to the core. I will always do my duty, no matter what the price. I'm counting up the cost, I know the sacrifice. Oh, I don't wanna die for you, but the dying's asking me. I'll pay that cost with honor, 'cause freedom don't come free. I'm an American soldier, an American. Besides all my brothers and my sisters, I'll probably take a stand. When liberties and jeopardy, I'll always do what's right. I'm out here on the front lines, sleep in peace tonight. American soldier, I'm an American soldier. Yeah, an American soldier, American. Beside my brothers and my sisters, I will probably take a stand. When liberties and jeopardies, I'll always do what's right. I'm here on the front line, sleep in peace tonight. American soldier, I'm an American. An American. An American soldier. Dear veteran, Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force too, fighting hard for me and you, protecting our freedom every day, making it possible to work and play. Your light shines so very bright, each and every day and night. We're so proud of you, keeping us safe, the red, white, and blue.
I do want to thank all of our veterans for their years of service and their dedication to our country. I want to thank our elementary principals, teachers, students, and staff for finding a way to honor our veterans even with the COVID restrictions. And lastly, on my superintendent report, I want to thank Frank Gomez. I know he has served on our board for 12 years, I believe, Mr. Gomez? For 12 years. So, you know, we're going to definitely miss you. We really appreciate everything that you've done for our district, and we wish you lots of luck going forward.
Good job. We're going to miss you. And whenever the Cowboys win, what are we thinking?
That concludes my superintendent report.
Okay. We don't have a student report. So moves us to public input. Mr. Oriana.
I made a request to be put on the agenda to, one, thank Robert and George, who have been very diligent in providing us an outside view, bringing their expertise in where we may be lacking as such, and finding opportunities for us to improve. The building of the, or the oversight in terms of not doing the bullpens, we're taking a stand. One of the reasons that I'm on the public input side is because that we can't take any action on that, and that was intentional. The second part of what I wanted to do was to recommend that the board do a review of the budget expenditures. If this went on and was not identified by our own staff, certainly there's some areas that we can improve, but not only that, there's probably other areas where that service wasn't provided as it was supposed to. And I love the words transparency, I love the words accountability, and I love the steps that we're taking towards that. But with such an effort that both Mr. Robert and George Esquedas had to take, it started back in April. I thought March, but it started back in April. And after resistance, after resistance, after resistance, their perseverance is what got us here to say, hey, we paid for something we didn't get. And to write it off as the project manager went ahead and approved it, kind of opens the door to, was there anything else that was approved that wasn't done? And in my humble opinion, I believe that warrants oversight by the board, for which we are supposed to be doing. $7 million of a bond issue. And we would dismiss, and not only dismiss, but make it difficult for a member of the public to get down to the nuts and bolts of the projects. So I thank you greatly. I know you're participating, George is participating in the Finance Committee. These are the types of things that I hope the new year brings to a level of accountability and transparency. And there's a lot of things that are going to go forward in the near future that I think will take us towards that. So thank you very much, and I would encourage the board to take action in the next meeting regarding making sure that we haven't missed anything else, and applauding those that do find the areas and bringing their expertise on board where we can follow through. The other thing was that I had requested another thing on the agenda, and it may be better served by being on the next agenda, on the next meeting, because it related to a required report from all board members who attend a conference to talk about what it is they learned in the conference and what it is they can apply. And certainly there was a great deal that I look forward to having the opportunity to talk about. But more importantly, there's a new board member that attended that, and that would be Ms. Murillo, who would also probably like to be part of that discussion. And so going forward, look forward to a great new year and the changes that come with that.
Thank you. Item B, Mr. Scale.
Well, again, I'm up here before you guys again. Just want to thank Mrs. Varela and Mr. Sepulveda for approving my request to be placed on the agenda. I know it's again, I just want to thank you for for that. Also want to echo Mrs. Varela's statements about you know, the principals, the staff, the students taking time out of their day to honor the veterans, because again, without them, you know, a lot of us wouldn't be here. You know, they fought battles in the past, and again, you know, I think that was a good sentiment on their part. You know, I also want to again thank Mr. Widiana for acknowledging the efforts of those in the public for, you know, being persistent and looking into stuff and making sure that the public, I better put my mask on, that the public's, what the public voted on and was approved is getting constructed. So again, you know, I wasn't doing this to be mean or anything. I just wanted to make sure that, again, there is that transparency, that accountability, because again, there appears to be a significant amount of money that is being constructed, or a significant amount of construction value for what's being done now. So again, you know, I hope the girls softball program and the boys baseball program appreciate the fact that there's improvements going on, that they will be able to take advantage of, or utilize, advantage isn't the right word, but utilize this upcoming season. So again, you know, I want to thank you for acknowledging the efforts. So, you know, in regards to my agenda items, I also want to, you know, thank Mr. Peru and Ms. Riley for providing updates on, as you can see, I have 4 agenda items or updates, and I want to appreciate, or I do appreciate them coming before me and providing the updates. You know, I did email earlier today both Mr. Peru and Ms. Riley a list of questions. You know, some of those questions were addressed today. There's still some outstanding questions that I have, and I'm up here to respectfully request that Ms. Riley and Mr. Peru respond to my email with responses to those questions. Is that something that that they can do, Mr. President? Okay, well, I appreciate that. Again, that way, you know, cuts down on some of these items that I have here. But going back to an agenda item that was earlier in regards to the board member resignation, you know, I do want to encourage those in the public that are out there that want to make a difference. You know, again, I've come before this board and said that, you know, the board is here for the staff, the students. Those should be first and foremost. So again, if you feel you as a member of the public want to see change or want to see a direction, a positive direction, you know, I certainly encourage you, once those letters of interest, or it's advertised that the board is accepting letters of interest, I certainly encourage members of the public to put in their their application. So with that, though, I also want to point out that the appointment of a 5th board member, and again, this is more for the general public, it's not for a full 4-year term. Any appointment that occurs in January is for a 2-year term, and which will expire at the next board election, which will be in 2023. So again, if you submit your name for consideration, it's not a 4-year commitment, it's a 2-year commitment at a minimum. So I just wanted to, again, point that out for those in the public. So, again, with Mr. Peru replying to my auxiliary gym questions, I know we spoke about the girls softball field and the boys softball field, and again, based on Mr. Widiana's comments, again, I do hope that the board and the administration look into potential or possible other oversights in regards to the expenditure of the bond funds. Superintendent search services, again, Ms. Riley has already addressed some of my questions, and I'll be looking forward to receiving her response. So that takes care of 3 out of the 4 items. The 4th item being the district audit. I know back in November, the board had some discussion in regards to the district audit. There was some debate back and forth as to whether the draft audit can be made available to the public. It was determined or decided or put forth that it's not available, but a question was raised that why not, or if it could in fact be public, or at least that the entire board view it prior to submittal. And I believe that question was asked, and Mr. Sepulveda acknowledged the question and indicated that he was going to follow up with Mr. Stone on that. And I was just wondering, Mr. Sepulveda, if you have any update for the public in regards to that?
As of right now, no.
So the answer remains the same as it was in the previous board meeting. There is no draft report. The audit is not complete, and we are not allowed to discuss it until it is.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. So I guess with that, I know your 2019-2020 audit was approved earlier this year. Is there any time frame in regards to the 2021 audit being submitted, or is there any information that can be shared on that? And
So
again, I'm not looking for you to divulge any information that you can't. I'm just looking to put a question there.
So in talking with Mr. Stone as a follow-up, he is looking at submitting the audit January 31st.
And Ms. Varela, that is the 2021 audit. The 1920 was completed before, and it's already a matter of public record on the auditor website.
Yes, the 1920.
Thank you, Terry.
The 1920. So the 2021 is the one that is currently being worked on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the correction. So again, rather than stand up before you and ask more questions, again, I do appreciate the opportunity to come before you, ask my questions, and then again, the opportunity or the fact that members of the administration will reply to my questions. So again, in which all of you guys were copied. So I did copy you at your Cobre email addresses. So, as always, I do want to thank you. And, I'm, with me coming before you, you guys provide or allow me to come and speak. So at the same time, as past, I've also asked if you guys have any questions of me or any comments that I might be able to address while I'm up here. Because it's only right that if I ask questions And again, I'm not coming up here to attack anybody. I'm just here to hopefully try to make a difference, an improvement. You know, I have been in a couple of meetings now to where I point things out that don't appear right, but at the same time, I also provide recommendations in how to improve the current situation. And I do want to applaud Mrs. Varela, Ms. Holguin. You know, they've listened to me, or they've entertained my recommendations and looking to make changes that, in my opinion, are going to improve the course of the district moving forward and for the betterment of the district. So with that, I'll stand for any questions or comments that you guys may have of me.
I'd like to make a comment about what you stated earlier in terms of the draft audit of this being, whether it exists or it doesn't exist. And in a public meeting, when the last time we approved it, I asked Mike Stone about the board member, and not the public. Certainly the public is not allowed to see anything of that until the Public Education Department approves the audit. But the board can. And the draft is that document that is going to be submitted to the state. And he said certainly board members can see that.
So I did follow up with him on that question because you asked that the last time.
Yes.
He said that was for that specific audit. He said going forward, he does not usually do the drafts, and so in order to do the draft, it would be additional charges to the district for that to happen.
So
But I will double check with him again.
Okay, and again, I'm not looking for the district to incur any additional costs. I'll just, again, a follow-up to what was stated at the November 8th, I believe it was November 8th board meeting, that Mrs. Varela has addressed my question, so I appreciate that. And, you know, unless there's any other questions, I know Mr. Jaramillo has been anxiously waiting to get up here and provide his public input, so if not, I'll return to my seat.
Thank you.
All right, well, again, thank you, and again, hope everybody has a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You too. If I could add one more point. People might have a question as to why George isn't running and, or isn't expressing an interest in being a board member. And it is because he does not live in the district. If anybody's kind of wondering why he's not doing that, it is for a very legitimate reason, unfortunately. Other public input?
Mr. Jaramillo.
Forrest Jaramillo. I have a question probably to staff. I presented this question last year over Zoom, I believe is what they called it. And that was on the program of Power School. And the other program is Google Meet. They don't seem to sync with each other. And the problem that I have as a parent is if my child is submitting or not submitting the assignment, it's flagged as an F immediately as soon as the assignment is put forth by the educator. Now, that carries as an F until the educator grades the assignment for the parent to actually view. My question is, and I've contacted the educators, I've also sent an email to, back then, Mr. Mendoza, never got a reply to a solution. My question again is, and I've seen this happen, there should be more fields of entry in the program of Power School. And those entries can be as simple as pending grade, submitted, missing, anything that would guide a parent so not to challenge the child. And this is what I do. I'm always questioning my child as to say, have you submitted this paperwork? And they said, yes, it's pending the teacher to be graded. I turned around and asked the teacher, and she guides me to Google Meet. Now, Google Meet, one of my children has 8 educators. And on Google Meet, I see 10 assignments per educator. That means as a parent, I have to look at 80 type of assignments before I can actually say, okay, I'm looking for the one that I'm being flagged as an F. And to make it simple, I think Power School is a great resource for a parent. I just want it to be real time, and I want it to sink in with Google Meet. Now, I know and I've seen and I've talked to some of the teachers that it's able to be an entry in that database. So again, I don't know if I'm contacting anybody specific, but you happen to be an educator, you understand where I'm coming from. And I've done this, I've come to the board before on Zoom. I've also followed with an email to the superintendent, prior superintendent, and I've also asked the educators on parent-teacher conferences and also emails and phone calls. I'm speaking for a lot of parents that should be doing what I'm doing. So hopefully something can be worked out so we can guide a parent and not have the clash between a parent and a child and have the judgment, is the teacher the one that's failing here? So I think it's more the program is a problem than any one of us. Thank you. The other thing is, before I forget, this has been a challenge for Ms. Varela to hold the title that she's holding right now, and we always seem to applaud the person that is taking on the task when the task is over. I want to do it when it's now. It's been difficult. And for Mr. Gomez, you've got a full plate. I've followed your career. I don't know how you do it, but I know you care about the community, and I wish you the best. And I know that your public service is going to continue in a lot of segments, and making a difference is in your heart. I want to thank you for that. And the other thing I want to comment is the songs of freedom coming from children is the best thing you can hear as a veteran. And I want to thank the Cobre School District for that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramil. If I could echo that, because being a parent, I have that same dynamic with my children. And you are kind of at the point of almost being beholden to what they say, oh, wait a minute, that just means it needs to be graded. And yet it appears as a solid F. And it raises that level of, I hear what you're saying. I don't know whether I should believe it or not. And how long does it stay there? Because it stays there for a while. And the comment is they're waiting for the teacher to grade. And so it does create a very negative environment in the house.
Board members, again, my name is Robert Esqueda. I just wanted to come up here because earlier when it was being discussed about the Cobre and Cobre baseball and softball fields and the bullpens that were not constructed, yet the contractor being paid in full, I don't think the severity was expressed because, and even more so to the public, because in fact, with the contractor being paid for items not constructed, it's actually a violation of the state procurement code under procurement and contracting improprieties, where contract administration allows vendors to be paid for services or goods not provided. Again, this is a violation of state procurement. It is serious. You guys need to really take a look at the overall contract when you guys hire Hellas, because initially I was only looking at the softball field and I found where the bullpens were not constructed, yet the contractor was paid for them. I also identified several other items in my inspection of public records request, and I've yet to receive an answer on those. It wasn't until recently that the contractor showed up to begin working on the softball field that it was learned that they were also working on the baseball field. Well, again, I looked at the scope of work approved by Cobre Consolidated Schools and the contract and PO. And again, bullpens were supposed to have been constructed at the baseball field, yet they weren't, but the contractor paid in full. I mean, this is violation of state procurement code, yet the severity hasn't been expressed. There hasn't been any concern from the board over how concerning this is for this oversight to have occurred. I believe, and I agree with Mr. Gudiana, that there needs to be an independent investigation into this entire project, being the softball, baseball, and football field, to see if any other items were not constructed with the contractor still being paid. Okay? And also, I think the investigation also look into who is responsible for this. I think it may fall on past employees, it may also fall on present employees, but the school district needs to find out why this happened, how it happened, and how the district can correct this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to take a few minutes and just thank everyone from my constituents, our students. I mean, the purpose of the board and everyone here is for the best for the education and the safe of our kids. And if they weren't here, none of us would be here. But again, thank you for everyone, our staff and administration. It's been a great 12 years. I want to thank Frank and Toy since I've been on the board. I mean, Frank's been a mentor, and a couple of years after that with Toy. So thank you all, and I wish you guys the best. I'll still be an advocate, I'll be a supporter, and anything that I can do in my position, I'd be more than glad to provide whatever services we can. But again, thank you, and most of all to my family and my wife for thanking me for the support in time being away and just the support. So, hey, I wish everyone the best of, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's.
Thank you again, Frank, and you're sure going to be missed. And I know that there's a lot of time that we worked as much as we could together, and I know that our wives were a meeting again, but but I know that they support us and everything, and we support you, Frank, and again, if there's anything that we can do to help you in your career, let us know.
Again, thank you, Frank. I know, not only do you support our students through being on the board, but with the DARE program. I know that's really powerful. I know you've been a huge advocate for that, and it's really meaningful for our students, and we appreciate the work that you do with DARE as well as the work you do at the school board. So thank you.
I also want to thank you, Frank. The only thing that hasn't been very helpful has been the Dallas Cowboy thing all the time. But other than that, I enjoyed working with you all the years that we have, and I look forward to working with you any way that I can. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to say thank you for your service, and I look forward to the opportunities that come forward, and I wish you success in your endeavors.
Thank you.
Any other public input? At this time, I've got an award that we received up there in Albuquerque for exemplary award that is going for above and beyond the number of training hours and work that we do with the board of directors and stuff, to Mr. Frank Cordova. Any other public input? Items for next agenda?
So I've got a couple written down. I have oath of office for new board members. I have executive session for review of superintendent search services proposals.
And that's it?
That's all I have written down so far.
Any other thing?
And I mentioned the presentations from board members.
Oh, NMSBA training reports?
Okay. Any other thing? Motion to adjourn? We adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.